is Pop Culture Yearbook. On this show, we pick pieces of pop culture that were important to us in a given year. We then discuss memories and dig into those movies, albums, shows, and more. I'm Brad.
I'm Pete.
And I'm Giff.
And it's a new month. Pete, what are we doing?
Oh, man, we're going to open the yearbook.
Yes, let's not waste any time. We just get that puppy open.
No shit.
Well, that's my name.
That's my name.
No
What
shit.
year are we opening to, Pete?
Page 2002.
Oh,
Yes.
it's a good one. 20.
We got a
just
really
20 short
thick
years
yearbook,
ago.
by the way. It's like a Bible.
It's
Like, okay,
pretty
turn to
cool.
Page 2002.
King James.
So
Yes.
tonight we're going to kick off the year talking about what we remember from 20 years ago. 20
Yes.
years. And we're going to give you our top fives from the year as well. Just a little
Yes.
overview of the year, 2002, which is one of those years like 2005 that we did. Doesn't feel like that long ago, but here we are, 20 years.
Yeah, it doesn't. Time definitely does fly by. I mean,
It does.
to think that, 26 years old back in 02.
Yeah,
we're
I
just
feel like
youngins.
all these 2000 ones we do are like so recent and like,
Mm-hmm.
people would just want to hear about 80s and 90s, but like these are literally like what we're going to talk about in our second episode is very nostalgic for me. Like I was listening to that and I'm
Mhm.
like, holy crap, that really just takes me back to
Yeah.
a different time.
This
Yes,
is when the years
tends
just
to do that.
start to blend together, though. Like before this,
Mm-hmm.
like when you're in college and those first couple of years out of college, you're living in a different place every year. Every year is so distinct. Now, like we're settling into our married lives. Not that it's bad or anything. We love our married lives. But it just sort of, okay, you're living in the same house now for, in my case, 10 years straight. And now my current house, 12 years straight. And
Same
I don't
job
know,
a lot
like
of
I do.
times.
That's probably
Yeah.
it, is that you look back and even though it is 20 years ago, your life isn't a ton different then than it is now. So it's not like
Mhm.
looking back
right.
when you
right.
had a whole different life,
Right.
Yeah,
This is getting pretty deep, guys.
it is. It
We
is.
like to keep it more shallow than that.
But Gifford, you always think you have nothing to say, so do you want to kick off our memories for us here?
I would
He's gonna
love
kick
to.
ass, though.
I would love to. So this is the first year that I started working as a flooring installer. So I've been doing installations for 20 years now. I also remember. I remember one of my buddies. Of course, this is the wedding time
Gifford
for
is
us.
drinking, by the way, everybody.
Yes, that's true.
Yes.
This is our major wedding time. Like everybody we know is getting married, and
There you go.
around us.
That
So
sounds right.
my buddy Boomer got married that year. That was an excellent wedding, a lot of fun. The bride and her family custom made camouflage bow ties and vests for the groomsmen and ushers. So I have that, still have it. I think it's been used in different Halloween costumes throughout the years, but that was awesome. One of the big things this year that I remembered back to was that my wife and I were lodging a lot of people this year. In particular, two of her cousins. Molly was a little later in the year, but this is the summer that
Oh, is
her
this when
cousin.
Emily lived there?
This is the summer that Emily lived with us.
Ah, I remember that well.
So her cousin Emily is a rather fetching young lady. And it was interesting because it seemed like my buddies would come by a little more often. And I
A
have to
certain
tell
one in particular.
I
Not
have to-
me, though, by the way.
I have to tell one story in
Not me.
particular. He will go unnamed. But I remember one day in the summer, Emily was a good tennis player. And of course, Brad being a teacher, he was always available in the summer to do things. So we had three of us that wanted to go play tennis, and we needed a fourth. So we call around and we ask if anybody wanted to play tennis, and we got one taker. And we told this particular friend, hey, meet us at this park and we'll play doubles tennis. So he, of course, obliged.
I do not remember playing tennis like this, by the way.
Oh, you don't? This is one of my favorite stories of all
No.
time. So we go down to the park, the three of us, and we're warming up. and this particular friend pulls into the parking lot in his truck, and it is completely loaded down with almost all of his possessions. He was in the middle of moving and stopped moving to come play tennis with us because Emily would be there.
Was his mattress still attached to the
Yes.
car? Or did it fly?
No, his mattress was still on the car at that point. Do you remember where he might be moving, like, from and to? Because was Burnsville anywhere near his route?
Probably from, no, him and a different friend probably lived on Selby, where we had that Halloween party we talked about in 2001.
Okay.
And then this might have been when he moved to his condo alone. I'm not sure.
But it wasn't on the way.
Well, no, that wouldn't be on the way at all.
So he went well out of his way just to show up to play some tennis. But yeah, so that was one of my favorite stories from.
And he fell in love
from that year. Yes, he did. This was well before his current relationship. But anyway, that was my favorite story, I think, from that year. Anybody else want to go ahead with that?
Well, I'm ready.
Okay.
So that's what you got?
That's all I got.
Okay. So we did only live 2.5 miles apart at that time, Giff, you and me. It was always fun.
Yep.
This was a big year with my job. So that's what I remember, because 2002 in the spring was the end of my 3rd year of teaching. And in order to be tenured and have like a job again, you need to get to your 4th year. And at my school, a person was supposed to retire who then changed her mind late in the year, and it meant there was nothing open left for me. And I did not get fired. The principal wanted me back, and I can explain that here in a second. So I had to scramble to look for a job, and I started applying all over, and then a .6 job opened at the other junior high in our district. And I got that, and the principal said, okay, you go interview, get that job, and then next year you're going to come right back here. And that's what happened. I came back. But it was pretty weird because the principal at that school was retiring, and he was like really good friends with my principal. And she's like, well, you should just get the job, but he insists on having the interview and being official. So I go interview, and this guy literally looked like he's falling asleep in the interview. And another guy in the room who became the acting principal the next year was just this big kind of scary guy who you couldn't read at all. So I had no idea what was going on there, but I did get offered the job, thankfully. And it turned into a .8 because I got to teach a computer class that when I look back and remember the stuff we taught in that class, it's hilarious because it was just insane. It was like in that Parks and Rec scene where everybody goes to Alta Vista to type in Google.
Right.
I mean, we were like going through all these different web search browsers, and it was just so crazy. But I got that job. I went back, so everything worked out. I also started coaching that year, though. So too, I started coaching tennis that fall, and I became the newspaper person at the school too that year. So I was able to make a lot of extra money to make the job just about equal to like a full-time job. And getting into coaching was really fun because I had a lot of really cool experiences there. And so that was really good. I also then, once I was officially, okay, I got a job, everything's working out, and I have friends in the district that I'm going to be with, we all started our master's degree that year too. And so one weekend a month that fall, we started going to the zoo school in Apple Valley, which was our meeting place. And we had like all day Saturday, all day Sunday classes for a master's degree. And it was not fun, and I did not enjoy it, but I did get through it. The trip that I remember from that year is we went to Vegas. So me and my wife went with, this is back when we all didn't have kids and we hung out a lot more with other people. We actually went on a trip with her friends Stacy and Tara and their husbands, and we stayed at the MGM Grand, and we spent a bunch of time at the Sahara gambling. We went to the Hoover Dam. We had a van rented. We went to the Valley of Fire. It was a really fun trip. And so I remember doing that on spring break. And looking back, that's just kind of funny because like some of these people you like so rarely see anymore, but yet we went on a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And the only other thing I have is that I try to think about what was going on in sports. And not much, except this is the year the Twins survived contraction We all thought they were going to lose the entire franchise,
Mhm.
and they survived the contraction, and they made the playoffs for the first time in 2002 and in 11 years, and it was really fun and revitalizing for all of us sports fans and baseball fans at the time.
Turned the team around, and they were good for
And then they
the
were good
next,
for a whole
Yeah.
decade.
Yeah.
yeah, the whole deck after winning the World Series in '91. They were good in '92, and then they were just god awful.
Terrible for a
awful.
decade.
Yeah.
Yeah, terrible for a decade, and then they kind of came back and just revitalized my interest and everybody's interest in the team and the sport. So that was an exciting time.
So we're going to turn it over to Pete, who something happened this year to him, and we don't know what, but he's teased
Well,
us that
it's
he's got something to say.
Well, 2002. I won't say it was my best memory, but it was a very important moment that happened during that year. And to set up the story, I actually got to go back to 1996. So it was shortly January of '96. This was shortly after I started dating Jenny. Jenny lived in the dorms, and one of the greatest things about college is how easily and quickly you can make lots of friends and everything. One of the first and best friends that Jenny made, her name was Robin, and so she was appropriately named because she was known for her trademark, just bright red hair, just the most fun person that we ever really hung out with, and her and Jenny became just best friends during that year, and I was a part of it, and so it was like the three of us just doing almost everything together. It's like then they became roommates the next year, and and so I was over there all the time. I don't think I was annoying to her because it was like I could just go over there even if Jenny wasn't around. We would just hang out, watch TV, talk, and whatever. And so she just became one of the best female friends that I had ever had. There's only about two or three really, really, really great female friends that I'd had. Not a relationship or anything like that, but we were just super great friends. She had a boyfriend, awesome dude too. His name is Jason. And during the summers, we would go camping together. We would go up to Jenny's family cabin together, just all the time. Just a lot of really great memories. And so I remember in particular, there was the summer of '97 was, during, I went to Mankato State, and during the school year, it's just like during the weekends, all parties all the time from
Right.
Thursday through Saturday. And that's what it was all about. But during the summer, it's like because almost everybody went back home. And so it was just quiet, and it was just a whole different world during the summer. So it was kind of nice actually, because you could just kind of come home and just sit at home and do nothing the whole weekend or whatever. And so the few people that were left behind, and I stayed behind in Mankato to take some summer classes, and Robin did as well. And so we really didn't have a lot of our other friends, and so we did spend just a ton of time together. And we in August of '97, we went out. It was just a beautiful night. We went out for probably the longest walk I'd ever been on. I think it was at least 2 hours. It's just the two of us. We walked all around Mankato, and just talked about life and talked about our futures, all of that sort of stuff, right? And in fact, during that walk, we were greeted by any guesses who we were greeted by? Somebody
In
famous,
August,
kind of famous.
Vikings related.
Yeah, actually, it was
Mitch Berger,
nope. It
Dennis
was
Green.
close. Defensive coordinator Foge Fazio.
Oh, good old
That was my
Foge.
next guess, Foge.
He was just out on the sidewalk. He was just coming in to the building. It was probably 8:30 or so, because it was almost dark, and there hadn't been practice for a while, but they had been doing something on the field. The coaches had been or whatever, and he was just like walking by himself, and he greeted us and just said, "Hey, nice night." Just small little exchange, but that was just one of the things there. And so So yeah, she was just one of the best, sweetest friends that I'd ever had in my life. And then fast forward a few years, she did get married. Her and Jason did get married in, I want to say, 1999. And then Jenny and I got married in 2001. Robin was one of the bridesmaids in the wedding, and so she gave a speech at um, the groom's dinner. And so just I can't say enough about how much she actually was as much of a part of our relationship as Jenny and I were to each other during that time. So August 14th of 2002, worst day of my life. We're just sitting around watching TV, just a normal night, get a phone call, and we find out that Robin was carpooling with her mom coming home from work that night and got broadsided just by a guy that was being a complete ass. He wasn't drinking, but he had a long rap sheet, and in fact, he was in jail, but he was out on work release, so he was supposed to go only to work and back, but he didn't even go to work at all, and he was with his girlfriend, speeding probably 100 miles an hour, just slammed into her car, and she was dead on impact. The mom was seriously injured, but she's doing a lot better now. We did see her once since then, and she had broken like 14 or 15 ribs, something like that, and she still has back problems and whatnot. But so yeah, I just remember the funeral, and it was just, like I said, it was the absolute worst thing that ever happened to me. And Jenny, of course, and it just had a lasting impact. But you get through it, and then eventually, like initially, I just remember just how much anger that we both felt about the whole situation. Didn't have to happen. Again, it was just an idiot, just not caring about the lives of others, and that's what happened. But then over time, that feeling of anger just gets replaced by the memories, by the all the fun memories that we did have of her. So that was the biggest thing that happened to me in 2002. And Robin, if you're listening, and I know you are, because my vision of heaven is a place where they play Pop Culture Yearbook on continuous loop on the loudspeakers. So just want to say we miss you, and that's all I have to say. And in fact, it was a month ago tonight, so August 14th, that we had brought it up. That was the 20-year anniversary of that accident.
Oh,
I remember that well. Once you started telling the story, then I did know what you were going to talk about. So that was a big one.
yeah, no doubt.
Yep. So there it is. So I can't say it was a good memory, like I said, but that was the biggest event that happened in 2002.
Did you have any other happier memories you wanted to share to
Not really.
go off of that?
No, I can't.
About a first anniversary or
Well, yeah, it would have been our first anniversary there. It was right after that though, so it was
That's
like
true.
our first anniversary was in September.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so it was just it was a difficult time because Jenny had lost her dad within 2 years before that, and so just a lot of stuff going on around that time.
Mhm.
So
All
that's
right.
what
Well,
I got. So without there's, I don't know if there's a good segue, but we can go right into our top fives.
hey, why don't you do your top 5 TV, Pete, since you're already going?
Top 5 TV. Okay, this was a year. I think that this is going to be very similar for both of you too, to 2001, which we had talked about last year, as a matter of fact, because I remember we did our 9/11 episode then.
Yeah,
That's
1 year
correct.
ago. You can go back and listen to that one.
Mm-hmm.
Not exactly a lot of happy thoughts, is there, tonight? So, in fact, though, I will say, because I remember thinking this, getting back to Robin, I remember after that happened, it was like thinking, what's worse? Would I rather relive August 14th or 9/11?
9/11.
Because it's 3,000 people that I don't know versus one person that I do that's in my inner circle and that I care about a lot. And so I don't know. It was a hypothetical that is probably a stupid hypothetical because both are just absolutely terribly tragic. But it was something that I had like muddled over. I remember thinking it in my head after it happened. But either way, just awful stuff. But anyway, getting back to the top 5 TV of that year. So I did have, because the early days, we did watch American Idol for about the first 2 or 3 seasons. And then it just continually it was exciting early on, and then it just sort of dwindled and got worse and worse over time. And then it just became too gimmicky. We did watch a lot of 24, Will and Grace. ER, that was one of Jenny's favorite shows that she watched all the time. And so I kind of got sucked into it as well. And then do you guys remember the show Monk?
Yeah.
I
don't think I ever really
Tony
watched
Shalhoub.
it. Tony Shalhoub.
Tony Shalhoub. Yeah, that was a show that we had gotten into for a little while there, and I remember watching.
I remember the show Wings.
Yes, that was before that, but Tony Shalhoub was in it, right?
Yes.
Wings would have been what, mid '90s, late '90s?
Yeah,
early '90s, first half of the '90s.
Okay,
that was a good show, and I think it's probably underrated. Or
it was a good show.
When you look back on it, you never see that show in syndication or anything, but
it used to be. I remember it being on all the time, but that was probably 20 years ago.
So were you watching this and that in syndication 20 years ago in 2002?
All right, my TV list, as you alluded to, I looked back at 2001. It's basically all the exact same shows, and I had almost the same order, but not quite. So my 2 honorable mentions were The Weakest Link and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, because game shows were huge at the time, and I had Just Shoot Me as well. The 5 shows I watched the most were Scrubs, Friends, of course, Temptation Island, which we talked about 1 year ago on our September, or not our September, but our 2001 episode. So that's a good one. And then Ed, which nearly became my choice for this month because I really liked that show. And when you talk about nostalgia, that's a show that kind of just disappeared. And when I remember watching it, it just brings back so many good feelings because it was me and my wife that watched it. You know, we just us two living alone now without kids, and we had just gotten married. And I really liked that show, but I didn't pick it. And then number 1 was Undeclared, which was kind of like the sequel to Freaks and Geeks. Some of the same people, and it was in college, and it was Judd Apatow people again. So only on for 1 season, another tragically short show.
Yep. Well, I, much like you, have almost the same top 5 as a year before. A couple of my honorable mentions were CSI, Will and Grace, and I was watching Fear Factor back then. My number 5 was The Daily Show. Number 4, Dawson's Creek. Number 3 was Friends. 2 was The West Wing. And number 1...
we got an episode on that.
That's right. And
That's right.
My number 1 will have an episode shortly, and that was Scrubs.
There you go. Yeah, coming up this year, right?
Coming up later in the month.
There you go. Sneak preview.
Which also includes Kavanaugh from Ed. I think we'll be covering possibly an episode that has him in it.
Boy, he was really big there for a while. What happened to that guy?
Yeah, no doubt. Do you want me to start with the music?
Sure. I like it.
All right. Well, I just wrote down a few songs that I liked. So I got Blurry by Puddle of Mud.
Puddle of Mud.
Puddle of Mud. When I'm Gone, Three Doors Down. My number 5, Complicated, Avril Lavigne. Number 4, Hella Good by No Doubt. My number 3 was Can't Stop, Red Hot Chili Peppers. 2, Lose Yourself, Eminem. And number 1, Hot in Her.
Oh, yeah. That's a good choice.
Thank you.
I remember we even still went out sometimes, and I remember vividly going to the Freight House in Stillwater.
Oh.
And we were all in the car and Courtney was, maybe the song was on, but she was singing that, and I can still just remember that moment.
Yes. So that's my list. Who's got the next one?
I can go next. My top one was Brad. Thank you for helping me out on this one. One by One by the Foo Fighters.
You're welcome.
Yes. My number 2 was also Hot in Her.
Nice.
I actually, I'm not a huge hip hop guy, as you can probably tell, but I did own that album.
Nice.
That was one I went out and I bought that CD, and I actually did really like it. There's a lot of good songs on it that are just
Country
fun to-
Grammar.
Mhm.
Country Grammar, that's right. You had EI. You had what was it? Batter Up. That was another good one, and a few other ones too. This was when Pink, I think, first came out, right? With Get the Party Started. And Soak Up the.
I feel like that song came later, but I don't know.
I think that
according
was
to my
actually
internet
01.
research- Oh my God!
Well, 'cause I
it's
had
probably
written-
a top song.
Hey, I have no idea. You asked, so I
No,
answered.
I kind of scrambled.
I wrote down that song, Pete, and then I had to go back and check, and it was released in 01.
Well, then it was
The-
probably big in 2002.
It was
There.
huge in 2002. Yes.
Move on.
The auditors are going to come after me now, aren't they?
No, I think we're good.
I had Superman 5 for Fighting. And we did talk. I know you guys both hated this song, as we talked about in the 9/11 episode, but this was when Alan Jackson came out with his "Where Were You and the World Stopped Turning." It's one that stood out to me, and I've got a lot of, it did stand out
Where
for
were
me.
you?
I
Oh,
did see it
stop.
on the top songs of the year list, though.
Yes,
You're gonna
I
hear
think
from
it was
Dave
top
on that
50.
one.
Jesus.
All right, it's good that I'm going last because my choice for this month is a musical selection again. Which, as I was making the notes, I realized we haven't done one of those in a while. It was kind of fun to. I was looking forward to hearing Pete's sneaky favorites and Gifford's sucker things that he's going to have to say.
I
So,
do have a sneaky favorite.
anyway,
in the next
I have
episode
3
that you'll hear next week.
honorable mentions. The Counting Crows had album Hard Candy. I think that's the one that had American Girls, which was a fun song. Wilco, Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, which was this big controversial album because they got dropped by their label and they didn't like it, and then they made documentaries, and I read a book about this album. It's crazy. It got a more publicity than they ever had because the record label hated the album. Sheryl Crow, Come On, Come On. I'm surprised one of you didn't mention that one.
Yeah, I saw. What's the big song?
Soak Up the Sun.
Soak Up the Sun. Yeah, I saw that one on the list of top songs for the year.
Good album.
It's a good song.
And then my top 5, one album that came out that is not by an artist, but that we listened to so many times. It was a movie that I did not really like. I think I slept through it. But the I Am Sam soundtrack was all Beatles covers by current artists.
That's right.
Eddie Vedder on there. And I talked about it when we did soundtracks one time
I remember
last year.
that. Yeah.
It's so good. I love the covers on that album. And I actually heard some Beatles songs on there that I really wasn't all that familiar with and loved them because of that instead. So it was my 5. Number 4, I have one of my all-time favorite bands that you guys probably won't even know. It's Imperial Teen.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah? All right. They are a awesome alternative band that I've loved. This was their 3rd album called On. And so that was that number 4. And then the number 3 is another artist we've talked about on this show about a year ago, Chris Isaak. He had an album called Always Got Tonight with some real Chris Isaak bangers on there.
Sweet.
So we did Forever Blue last year. Please, that's a popular episode. Go listen.
It is.
Gifford nailed it.
I did.
My number 2 is actually not my number 1 is actually not the Foo Fighters. It's number 2, One by One, which is one. I love that album and I love All My Life and so many songs. But that is my number 2. My number 1 is the album that I chose that we're going to have as our topic next week. And we're going to talk about polarizing bands too next week. Mm-hmm. And this is the year Coldplay came out with A Brush of Blood to the Head, which is, man, I have so much to say. This album is so good. So I don't know if you guys liked it, but it was huge. It was huge,
Yes, it
huge
was.
at the time. It was awesome, and going back and listening to it several times made me not regret my choice. So that's my number one.
That's a hell of a list.
Stay tuned next week to find out if we liked it or not.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so by the order we've been doing, I'll do the movies now.
Excellent.
So I'm just going to list off some honorable mentions here. See, the funny thing doing this list is we always like pick so many comedies, and like that's my obviously genre of choice.
Yep.
But when I was going through the movies from 2002, I only have 2 comedies listed, and neither one of them are like classics like that I love, like so many of the other ones we talk about.
Yep.
It's all like action or drama, even horror movies that I've got here. Or a musical. So I have Chicago listed.
Yep, that's a good
Bowling
one.
for Columbine, a documentary. Red Dragon. I loved Red Dragon, the prequel to Silence of the Lambs. And
Mhm.
Edward Norton he was the man at this time.
Well, and Ray Fiennes was the
Yeah.
villain. He was
Yep.
excellent in that. Yeah.
And I didn't like Hannibal very much. So it was like, this was a real surprise. Like that was really, I thought that was awesome when this came out because it was like a big step back up.
Yep.
1 Hour Photo, the big dramatic Robin Williams movie, was great. Spider-Man, the first one.
I think I've only seen that once. That was a good movie, though. I forgot about
Which
1 Hour
one? 1 Hour Photo?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gifford, of course, we all went to My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
He's switching.
He's switching. We talked about that one time. I think that was on our Ladies' Choice Month because it brought it up through Kim.
It may have been.
Van Wilder was one of my comedies. Orange County was another one. And then Panic Room, which was a pretty good movie, but you know what made that movie great? Dwight Yoakam.
Oh, yeah.
God, he was good. He is so good. I love that guy.
Yeah.
He is he's probably my favorite country artist ever.
Mhm.
But he is such a good actor too, and he was great. The one honorable mention that I have here that I thought about picking. Have you seen this movie, Gifford? Frailty.
I have it not on my top 5, but I have it written down. I love that movie.
But I've only seen it once, but I remember it was such a like kind of unique horror movie, kind of this small surprise, and I know I really liked it, and I really thought like we should go back and watch that again. But
It's
I
worth
didn't
it.
make it.
Totally worth it. To
So
go
I
back
might
and
do it
rewatch
anyway.
Yeah.
Here's my top 5.
All right.
Number 5. Pete, I don't know why, but I remember you and me and Kim went to see Road to Perdition, and we don't go to movies together very often, but I remember you being with us. Just you, not Jenny.
That was the third wheel, huh?
Yeah, Road to Perdition with Tom Hanks. Unfaithful. That was a
Lucky
big
Kim.
one in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
That's number 4. Gifford, I don't think we went together, but I remember we all talked a lot about the movie Signs because I think you didn't like it or something.
We'll find out.
Okay, here we go. Number 2. Oh, I do have a comedy. Number 2, I have Goldmember.
Yep.
Kind of like Red Dragon. The second Austin. So I love the first Austin Powers as much as anything. The second one, just huge disappointment. So over the top and dumb. But then Goldmember, I feel like bounced back. It wasn't perfect by any means, but it was pretty funny.
Pretty good.
And then finally, I'll stop talking. My number 1 is the other movie that I nearly picked, Minority Report with Tom Cruise, Steven Spielberg movie. And I've only seen that, I think, probably the one time in the theater, but it was such another just unique movie. And I thought, God, that'd be fun to watch again and see what I think now.
Yeah, worth your time. It holds up.
We won't have episodes on them, but I will still probably try to watch those 2 at some point.
Sure.
All right. Pete.
Okay, so one of the movies that I know that the movie that I've seen more than any of the other ones from this year would be the Harry Potter Chamber of Secrets movie came out that year.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the better ones. And then I had Sweet Home Alabama on my list, Reese Witherspoon, and then I did have Road to Perdition. I didn't remember that until you brought that up, that we had gone to that together. I vaguely remember it now. And then I had Spider-Man.
Phil Spiderman.
That's right. And then I had Catch Me If You Can. You remember that movie?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yep.
See,
that was a fun one.
Surprised I didn't write that one down, but I feel like I look back and I feel like I was disappointed in it a little bit, but I don't
I
know.
thought it was good. I thought it was fun. I've only seen it once, so
Yeah,
maybe I should go back and rewatch it.
it's not
Yep.
one that I look back and think, God, that was great. I got to watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
go ahead.
and then I did have my last one that I had was Big Fat Greek Wedding, which I had on my list as well.
Okay.
All right.
Is that your list?
That is my list.
All right. Well, I will go take it from here. You guys mentioned a lot of my honorable mentions and a couple from my my top 5, but this was the year that the first Resident Evil came out. The movie The Rookie with Dennis Quaid.
Oh yes,
That
Never seen
came
it.
out this year. That was pretty good. The 10th Friday the 13th movie, Jason X.
I saw that. I knew you were
He's
going to
in
have that. I
space.
came across it.
Yep, he's in space this time. So that
And
was
1 year
sweet.
ago on Halloween, we talked about the Friday the 13th franchise.
That's
God, it's
right.
hard
I
to
learned a
believe
lot.
That's a year ago already.
Mhm.
Any of this, right?
Attack of the Clones, Star Wars came out this year.
Which
Oh,
is
that
like
was-
the worst one, right?
That was pretty
I would
bad.
go with the first one.
The
Oh,
first
really?
one of
First
the
one was probably
Okay.
the worst. I actually
Attack of the
enjoyed
Clones
it.
is pretty bad.
I'll defer
too,
to
so.
you. I'm
I-
not the expert.
Well, I mean, it's simply an opinion, but I enjoyed Attack of the Clones.
Okay.
My fourth favorite Sandler movie, Mr. Deeds, came out this year. A smaller movie, Knockaround Guys. I enjoyed that. The Transporter. The Ring came out this year,
Yeah,
and
The
I have a
Ring.
freaky story about The Ring. Jackass, the movie, the first one came
My
out
God,
this
that
year.
goes back 20 years.
Mm-hmm. 8 Mile with Eminem, Kim Basinger. That was excellent. We also have The Two Towers, Lord of the Rings movie came out that year. Pete, I was surprised you didn't include Bourne Identity on your list.
Yeah, that was dumb.
Because that's what Pete picked. So
That's what we'll be
I pretty much
covering later.
bullshitted my
in the
way
show.
through my
his
list
mind.
anyway.
Sure. So my top 5,
that
Gangs.
is a good one, Gif.
Thank you. Gangs of New York. My number 4 is Signs. I love that movie.
Oh, you did. I felt like something happened at the end where you thought, oh God, it just fell apart or something, but
No, I
guess
really,
not.
really enjoyed that movie. My number 3 is Van Wilder. My number 2 is Catch Me If You Can. I really enjoy that movie. If it's on television, I will sit and watch it. And my number 1, and I almost picked this for this month, Super Troopers came out in
Oh.
2002. And I love the Broken Lizard guys, a lot of their movies, even their Tacoma FD, which 2 of them are in. I watched that TV show. I like their humor. So Super Troopers was excellent. So that's my number 1.
Hey, we had some really good variety in our lists there this time.
Mhm.
So
That's
well done.
right.
Yeah.
A
Well,
lot for the
we are
people
a
to think
variety
about.
Well, and yeah, you go back and watch all kinds of good stuff. A lot of good movies that
That's
year
right.
that I really enjoyed.
All right, are we ready for a little Preacher Row? PR?
I think so.
Why
think so.
not?
All
Get
right,
it up.
let's crank it up. Thank you.
We'll see ya.
Bye. See you next week.
Bye.
Standing on my own 2 feet. No one's here to comfort me. Sorry for what I have done. Sorry that your son is gone. 7 steps and it will be my last. And start to me on my back. I turn and I look to you. I'm scared but there's nothing I can do.